Let's fucking get this over with, cause I wanna go watch fucking Moon Knight before I have to go to fucking work. That would be swell. That would be great. That would be nice. That would be A-okay. Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about In Stasis, the fourth studio album from English progressive metalcore band Monuments. I've never really paid a lot of attention to Monuments in the past. I know that they are a progressive metalcore band, or more simply put, a Djent band. I know that they've put out 3 other studio albums. I know that they've had quite a few lineup changes over the course of just a decade, but that's about it. I don't think I could even name a single record or hit single of theirs off the top of my head. In fact, full disclosure, the only reason I was even interested in listening to this EP is because I was led to believe that Mick Gordon of Doom Eternal fame was producing the entire record, when in reality, as I learned after the fact, he only contributed to one song, Lavos, one of the lead singles from this record. But irregardless of whether or not Mick Gordon was present throughout the entire recording and production process of In Stasis, I did still listen to it, and I feel comfortable saying that it's pretty good? Yeah? Yeah. I mean, it's not like a mind-blowing experience. If you're familiar with any kind of progressive metalcore or deathcore, Djent, anything from Periphery, Born of Osiris, then you've got a pretty strong idea already of what to expect from Monuments. I mean, y'all should know the drill when it comes to these types of bands. There are a lot of ham-fisted grooves, a lot of breakdowns, a lot of bright, sparkling, soaring choruses and anthemic hooks, flashy guitar, pyrotechnics, very technical guitar solos, a lot of weird, spacey, cybernetic soundscapes, keyboard parts that would not be out of place on a classic Cynic record, despite what the obvious Sumerian core coat of paint would have you believe. I mean, for God's sakes, the record even features collaborations with Spencer Sotelo from Periphery and Nima Asghari, a former lead singer for Fell Silent and Monuments, believe it or not. So yeah, lots of Djent stuff. It's pretty definitively, inarguably Djent. For these reasons, I think it's very fair to say that if you don't like Periphery, if you don't like Born of Osiris, if you don't already like Monuments, there's not much this record could really do to change your mind. There's not much that this record really has to offer you. But I will say, if you do like Djent, if you do like the progressive metalcore and deathcore of all of the bands that I've mentioned and many more, I think you'll thoroughly enjoy this record. It's by no means reinventing the wheel, but the wheel is moving pretty smoothly. It does look prettier than your average wheel, and that's gotta count for something, right? The aforementioned Lavos featuring the aforementioned Mick Gordon is a standout track. It's very punchy, very dynamic, a lot of muscular grooves contrasted with some more aggressive sections and a really strong hook. Its very hostile and bouncy energy is a tad infectious. I found myself humming along to the melody on repeat listens. I found myself bobbing my head, grooving to some of them riffs. This definitely would not be out of place on the Doom Eternal soundtrack, which I don't think is a coincidence because, again, Mick Gordon. I also really like Arch Essence, the Spencer Soletto collaboration. It's a little bit more raucous, a little bit more dirty. There's something about that groove in the very beginning that weirdly reminds me of Lamb of God, but filtered through the progressive metalcore of, obviously, a band like Periphery. But I'd also argue there's a bit of Coheed and Cambria influence, particularly in that massive sci-fi chorus. I mean, it's just such a big, bold, and dramatic hook, and I love a lot of the chaotic percussion and guitar riffs flailing around in the background, just making this all the more powerful and evocative. I do think the breakdown near the very end is a touch weak, but I mean, it does such a good job at building up so much momentum and firepower up until that point that it's not really a massive letdown. Meanwhile, tracks like No One Will Teach You, Cardinal Red, False Providence show a little bit of extra post-hardcore sizzle and flavor and spice. The aforementioned Coheed and Cambria is again brought to mind with some of the very technical and pummeling rhythms. Another track like Makeshift Harmony in particular reminds me of the very, like, over-the-top, dramatic, highly emotional post-hardcore of, like, early 2010s In Fear and Faith. Honestly, the same can even be said for closing track Chimerian, which is like an 8-minute-long post-hardcore, metalcore, prog metal opus. There are a lot of big hooks, there's a lot of soft-spoken cleans, there are a lot of dramatic, over-the-top guitar arrangements. The track is a little bloated and a little repetitive, but still impressive to an extent. Like, there's clearly a lot of work and thought that went into this. I don't really have any major complaints or criticisms for the record. It's very well produced, it's very well performed. Ultimately, my issue is that it's just not really doing anything that I haven't already heard. Like, it's clear that Monuments followed a very specific recipe previously put in place by many of the bands we've talked about. And maybe they added their own special seasonings, you know? Maybe they used fucking half and half instead of 35% cream for the sauce. Maybe they used the tomato ragu as opposed to a traditional tomato sauce. Good for them. But it doesn't change the fact that there's a recipe, they followed it step by step, and they're making the exact same pasta carbonara that every other prog metal Djent band is making right now. You know? I would give this a very enthusiastic but also slightly cautious 3 out of 5. Enthusiastic if you love progressive metalcore, if you love Periphery and Born of Osiris, but cautious if you're not entirely sold on the idea. I think there are enough really strong hooks and riffs that it's worth at least a brief listen. But, you know, don't walk into this expecting like a really mind-blowing, one-of-a-kind spectacle, because In Stasis is simply not that. And anyone arguing that it is has never listened to a lot of Djent beforehand, plain and simple. While I am disappointed that Mick Gordon did not produce the entire record, I do think his influence is felt throughout. This is a very crisp record, it's very crunchy, everything is transparent and heavy and ballsy, just like a really good Mick Gordon composition or recording. I like the collabs on here. I think it's a fun, steady, consistent ride. You know, a little bumpy, a little slow in some parts. There's definitely some filler here, but, you know, for the most part, I would say that I did enjoy this record. I'm just not at all, like, really pumped about it. I'm not at all blown away by it. And, yeah, that's that, really. I'm running out of stuff to say, so let's wrap this up. 3 out of 5, you know, it's decent. Check it out. Why not? And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.